Okay, hello everyone. It's very pleasing for me to be here, and the way this is going to work is I'm going to be talking live over the first few slides, introducing my company and the background, and then we'll jump into a video where effectively for the next 30-35 minutes we'll actually be playing myself through a recording of this webinar, which is, as you've already read, about waste and the sustainable industry question. And finally, as Misty said, we will also open up for any questions that you might have. So the agenda, as you can see, is fairly simple, really. What we want to do first is just cover off some of the statistics, really. Some of them are quite alarming, reference the status of waste in the construction industry, and just clarifying the problem. I don't think there is anyone on the planet, I think, who is not aware anymore about the sustainability challenge that we have ahead of us. And then from that, I want to progress into talking about some of the initiatives around the world which are being developed and which are running to try and address or mitigate this problem. There are many, many initiatives. I just pick out a few to try and just put some more light on what's going on and the fight against the problem. And then I just want to cover off a little bit more of a dive into one of our solutions within GRAITEC, which is known as Advanced Workshop. And this is a solution that's targeted in the construction world at mainly fabricators, rebar fabricators, and steel construction and precast companies. There are many solutions that technology companies are offering to try and help with the whole sustainability question. This is one that I want to take a bit of a dive into to give you an idea. And then the future, in terms of how are things going to change, because some things are needing to change. I don't believe we can carry on for too long as business as usual, given some of the issues that are now presenting themselves in front of us. Just looking to move forward. Okay, a little bit more about the company. We have a number of different products within GRAITEC. For those of you who aren't aware of who we are, what we do, we act in a dual capacity, really. We are a primary leading reseller of Autodesk products. I don't think Autodesk as a digital software company needs much introduction. They are one of the giants on the globe, and we pretty much sell every single one of their solutions as part of our packages as well. But more interestingly, we have our own IP selection of solutions, which you can see near the bottom, the GRAITEC portfolio. There's quite a lot of different things we do for different construction professionals and the industry at large. Given the time constraint that we have, I don't plan to go through each of them. That is not really the purpose of the presentation. I'm more interested in, like I said, deep diving into the Advanced Workshop solution line, and that is on this screen here. And I just want to point out that that is the first one on the left-hand side, Advanced Workshop. This is the one that we will touch upon later near the end of this presentation. But there are a number of different solutions for different construction industries within our company. But again, in terms of deep diving to all of them, you're more than welcome to approach myself or Misty after the event, and we can certainly furnish you with much more information. So I'm now going to move forward to the actual presentation itself on the next slide, and it should start playing in a few seconds. So, as I said at the beginning, how big is the waste problem that we're looking at? Indeed, a lot of people are calling it a bit of an emergency. There's also a climate emergency that is being talked about, and waste clearly is playing its part in making this climate problem an even bigger problem. So if we look at some statistics on the actual waste that this industry generates, the first thing to say really is this is data that is collected from various countries, but not all countries. In some countries, especially in the developing world, waste is a huge problem. You see mountains and mountains of waste. Sometimes governments don't know what to do with it. This obviously causes a lot of health issues, not to mention the carbon dioxide emissions that these piles cause. So if you look on the under the raw materials column, we estimate that there are 100 billion tons of raw materials that are extracted throughout the world, whether it's developed countries or developing countries. These are just estimates. No one really knows the true amount of raw materials that are extracted, but clearly in the future we are going to start running out of all of the materials that we are today dependent on, whether it's fossil fuels, or whether it's iron ore, whether it's cement. Clearly, all of this stuff, once it's extracted from the earth, it doesn't replenish itself. We therefore have to get on top of initiatives to try and cut down on the amount of raw materials that we are consuming at an alarmingly increasing rate. Then you have CO2 emissions. The construction industry is estimated to generate 40% of all carbon dioxide emissions, which is a huge number, a huge percentage, should I say. So the construction industry clearly has a very big role to play in cutting down on the emissions. Then you move to the actual building sites. And then again, it's estimated that of all the materials that are delivered onto site, whether it's prefabricated or materials that need to be fabricated on site, whether it's cement, whether it's concrete, whether it's plaster, etc., 30% is the estimate of all materials that are delivered are actually in the end not used for a variety of different reasons, which we'll touch upon in a slide to come. And then finally, I just want to talk about the amount of tonnage, if you like, waste that's sent back to landfill, just into a big hole, not to be seen of ever again. 860 million tons in Europe alone. I haven't got the figure for the world, and that is because it would be an absolute guess, because a lot of countries simply do not have a handle on data to show how much is actually going into landfill. In fact, you could say in some countries the problem is out of control. So as far as the total million tons going into landfill, your guess is as good as mine. It is very, very hard with the sketchy data that we have, but clearly we have a big problem. So here I just want to break down a little bit further into what construction waste actually means, because the construction waste is just a terminology, and then what people attempt to do is look at exactly what constitutes construction waste. So here's one pie chart that I pulled off, and again what that shows is all the different materials from the construction waste site that are skipped in effect or returned back, not to be used. A lot of these products, once manufactured, cannot be reused, and so they end up being sent to an incinerator or a landfill site. And I did a little bit of an analysis on this, and what you see is in that pie chart, over half, 57% in fact, of the waste from construction sites is in fact materials like bricks, clay products, tiles, cement, plaster, all those earthy sort of materials. And that shows you the extent of the problem. There's a lot of data. I don't really want to go into all of the data today, but this is just to give you an idea about the extent of the problem and what might be contributing to it. More specifically now, I want to look at a couple of industries today. Again, because of time, I don't have the time to actually go through all of the different industries. That is not the purpose of this conversation. So we will touch upon the rebar industry and the steel industry. That doesn't mean the other industries out there, whether it's the glass industry or the cement industry or the tarmac industry or the concrete industry, do not have similar waste problems. The waste problem is agnostic, okay? It exists across all construction materials. So going back to the two areas that I want to focus on today, I want to pick up on rebar, the rebar industry. And one interesting statistic that I pulled up from the MDPI Sustainability Review that was done a couple of years ago is that the rebar industry, when it comes to carbon dioxide, which is something that we are all desperately trying to get on top of, because it leads to climate warming, and therefore extremes of temperature, which are causing all sorts of issues already. Per unit, rebar generates more carbon dioxide than any other construction resource. Now that's for the rebar industry quite a focused statistic, which really focuses the mind, because it means that we therefore have to ensure that the rebar we are using is manufactured according to purpose. And as far as waste is concerned, we need to get on top of the waste problem, because as you can see from that picture, if you go to any rebar fabrication facility, I've been to quite a lot, you will notice skips somewhere in the yard, sometimes several skips, and they're always brim full of offcuts and waste products. And the problem is clearly worse in some areas, in some companies than others, and there are lots of reasons for this. So how do we cut down on this waste? I've picked up on a few initiatives which are being used to try and help. So one is the nature of rebar when it's actually manufactured. You know that rebar comes in straight lengths. You go into any rebar factory, but you also see a lot of rebar in coils. And a lot of companies are investing in coils because they are optimized with specific production parameters. They require less production energy when you're actually putting those into shape. They also contribute to reduced wear of straightening rollers on pre-bending machines. They don't need any wells. They have very high bonding, and they are very compatible with all the shaping machines, the leading systems and straightening systems that are out there. So the use of coiled rebar is more and more something that manufacturers are opting for, because it is actually being shown to cut waste, and I guess being commercially aware, that therefore contributes to their own profitability. The other thing is manufacturing algorithms. Now I've seen some of the manufacturing algorithms that have developed. Some look very scientific, and I am no scientist myself. These actually focus on cost versus design, and they try to optimize any trade-offs between the amount of rebar, the buildability of the final cage, and any cost of installation, because every manufacturer has to weigh these off against each other, and the manufacturing algorithms are technology's input to try and help fabricators manufacture with the least amount of waste. The other thing that can be done is optimizing the actual work process itself. So we know that there are drawings that are involved always. We know that quantities are taken off from those drawings, sometimes either manually or sometimes using software. And then there's obviously the production process. And optimizing means taking a closer look at all of these different parts of the production and design detailing process to see whether the required end purpose is being met. Quite often the quantities that are taken off manually might be inaccurate. And organizations need to actually invest time in understanding why this is the case. Is it a process? Is it effectively the users not actually interpreting the drawings properly? Is the software that they are using maybe out of date or needs updating? The production process itself, what is happening at each stage of the production process? A lot of the companies that have invested time in looking carefully at these stages of the production process have found significant savings. So it is always worth doing that, even though people have a lot of workload daily anyway. But these kind of strategic processes where you step back can actually often result in a lot of savings in the longer run. And then you have the steel reinforcement industry, which is the other one that I just want to take a bit of a look at. Steel worldwide is used in in reinforcement, but also on its own in the vast majority of construction projects. So again, when you look at steel, if you go on a site, you will often find, of course it varies from site to site, but you will find steel is dumped often in a skip somewhere or in a pile, wasted. I've even seen little mountains of the stuff on some very big construction sites, and you often wonder, what is this down to? And you find that sometimes it's simple as people being irresponsible when it comes to beam cutting, or they have got fabrication issues in the sense that the products that they are being asked to manufacture and cut are not in line with the original specification, so the client then ends up rejecting the steel, and then obviously it has to be repurposed and then reproduced. That is where the waste then lies. People often point to inadequate design details and standards. It can result in waste due to short ends of bars being discarded due to improper planning of cuts. So how do you combat this problem? Okay, yes, you can optimize your processes within your factory to try and improve the manufacturing process itself. But there is a trend where more companies now are choosing to purchase pre-assembled steel reinforcement pieces. And they often go to companies that prioritize responsible material use. And this is obviously a very welcome trend, that companies are showing that they are more responsible in their material use in the first place. And I think involving expertise rather than trying to do everything yourself sometimes is also a correct way to go. So what are some of the things being done to fix this problem? So if you start with some guidelines that I've certainly picked up from the industry in my time in it, what you find is during the pre-design stage, it should be made very clear what the goals are of the construction process, with the focus on waste, so it is not overlooked. Quite often, even the software that's used at the design stage, if you select your software carefully, you will find that it's actually nowadays the innovation is such that even the software will help you design a building or structure with lots of different carbon emission alternatives and data that's shown. It helps you therefore select the design that reduces carbon, just in the same way that you might look for a design which reduces your cost, which is clearly something which companies have been interested in for many years. But now, more importantly, even carbon reduction should be looked at in the same way. And then during the design and procurement process itself, it's important to review the current process. Okay, so what kind of designs are you selecting? Why are you selecting those designs? What is the carbon footprint of those designs? And what is your procurement process? Are there any areas that can be improved? Where are you buying from? Who are you buying from? Do those people have a responsible recycling plan of their own, for example? And this leads to what is called the SWMP, or the Site Waste Management Plan. A lot of responsible companies now have one of these as a mandatory part of the construction process. This helps educate people who are involved in a project. What is the plan? How are we implementing procedures, and how is everyone buying into the procedures to ensure that waste is cut and eliminated wherever possible? And so these plans more and more are now becoming widespread. The other thing that a lot of companies now do to try and reduce waste is at the pre-construction stage, they set up a series of KPIs. Okay, these KPIs are designed to measure how efficiently a site is being run, and they are designed to capture the amount of waste at every stage of the construction process, in order to ensure that the data is reviewed to ensure that waste is indeed being cut, okay, from one project to another. And of course, linked to that is continuous monitoring. Methods and processes need to be set up so that the waste accumulation is actually measured accurately, and feedback is captured at every stage. After all, without accurate data, there is no way you can move forward. And then after construction, so once a job or project is finished, it's important to review the process, not just move to the next job. It's important to review the process, check the KPIs, see the amount of waste or assess the amount of waste that has been generated. Is it actually in the right trend? Because then obviously it's an iterative process. It's important to take the lessons from one site and then apply those lessons to another, and of course to your people too. So now we move on to the digital technology piece. So what we're interested in knowing here is there are lots of solutions out there, lots of digital solutions, software, which is there playing its part to try and help with the waste problem. Clearly, there isn't the time to go through all the different solutions. So for me, I want to concentrate on the GRAITEC Advanced Workshop solution, and this is where we focus a little bit more on the fabrication industries in particular. So one good place always to start is for those people who haven't heard of the Advanced Workshop solution, which was previously known as Armour Plus. Some of you might have heard of it. It's effectively known as an ERP system that's dedicated to the rebar, steel and precast fabrication industries. So it targets the fabrication industries, and its purpose, if you like, is to help the fabricator optimize all fabrication activities, whether it's the design, the sales, the estimation, the detailing, the production, the stock taking, the logistics. It's effectively aiming at the whole production process within a fabrication factory, as transport is there as well, of course. The system also integrates with other ERP systems that a factory might already be invested in for their salary, for their payroll, for their accounts, and it's ultimately concerned with the efficient data handling of all the different fabrication processes involved in receiving the raw material or the steel at the beginning, manufacturing and processing it, culminating in the prefabricated cage, if you like, or the steel cut sections ready for delivery to site. So what industries, again to recap, what industries does the Advanced Workshop solution serve? So I've mentioned precast. This is the typical inside of a precast factory. Rebar. Rebar is a very strong element of the Advanced Workshop solution. And then finally the steel fabricator. So the three key fabrication industries is what we want to talk about here. I should also say that the Advanced Workshop solution is a truly international solution. So our customers in blue here, you can see that they are pretty spread all over the globe. So you've got North America, you've got South America, you've got South Africa, you've got parts of Africa, you've got the Middle East, Russia, you've got Southeast Asia, you've got Australia and New Zealand, and also Europe, which is where the solution started out and which is where we have most of our customers today. So on this screen here, what I want to try and present, this is a very rich solution, Advanced Workshop, and sometimes you can spend hours just presenting it and talking about it. My job today is to try and talk to you for under 10 minutes about this solution. So it's a high-level overview. What you need to know is that the Advanced Workshop solution is known as a single source of truth. Okay, so that's our mission, to give our fabricators a solution which they can rely on for all of these different stages of their construction and their manufacturing process. So it starts off with an estimate, if you like, for a job site that the rebar or the steel fabricator might be interested in, to see what quantities are involved, what tenders are involved. All this can be done within the Advanced Workshop solution. Then you can also do your detailing. You can generate your rebar lists, your drawings, 2D and 3D within the same solution. You can then move forward into procurement. So the solution enables you to actually procure additional supplies and miscellaneous services in order to help you manufacture your finished product. So to give you an example, if you are a rebar fabricator and you're fabricating a cage for a pile assembly, or some other similar product, your client might actually want that solution, that product to be galvanized. You might not have the ability to galvanize, but you know someone who does. Well, you can procure directly from them. You can generate a delivery note. They can generate a delivery note. You can create a PO, a purchase order, and all of this can be done from within this system. So it's all linked to the same data. Once you win the site, the job, and you know how much rebar or how much steel you've got to manufacture, you can take that information directly from the initial stages into the production stage at the depressing of a button, because it's transferring the data you've already got. You can then start optimizing your machines using, again, Advanced Workshop, which already is aware of all of the different machines you have for cutting and bending, in the case of rebar. It has algorithms already built in to help you allocate the work to the right machines, and it even tells you if your machines are over capacity, so you can reallocate the work somewhere else. You then can go forward into shipment and receipt of materials. So every time you receive stocks, you can actually use this system and some of the hardware that is supplied with it, such as scanners, to scan barcodes, for example, or QR codes, to capture the amount of stock coming into your factory, to update your stocks automatically in real time, so you know how much goods you have on your premises. It also has an inbuilt transport planning and delivery module, which means that once you've manufactured, you can use that information. You know how much you've manufactured, you know how many trucks you have, and then it automatically optimizes the production delivery routes per truck, and even tells you when your trucks will return back to the depot. So the important thing is this solution is about linking all the different stages of your manufacturing process together. So you're no longer reliant on getting your information from different sources or different repositories, because that's often where the problems happen, because one part of your business will be telling you that your solution, that you have a certain amount of product, but if you're using a different solution for another part, it may be drawing its data from somewhere else, and then there is confusion, and that's when mistakes happen. So the important message about Advanced Workshop is it centralizes all of your information into one database. I should also mention traceability. So this is a big thing nowadays. A lot of our clients are always asking about traceability. Can they trace the raw materials? Can they trace the production? Can they trace what is on their trucks back to the originating steel mill, if you like? And the answer with Advanced Workshop is yes, it captures all the different data that's required, the grading, the steel mills, the heat number, everything that's important to trace where an item came from, especially if something occurs on site and someone needs to trace it back to the originating mill, or at which activity it actually was manufactured. So this is very important, I think, and it's going to get even more important as time goes on. Now all I want to do is share with you a couple of slides which are taken or extracted out from the Advanced Workshop system. So if you're using the Advanced Workshop system as a fabricator, this is one of the screens that you'd be looking at. It's got a ribbon at the top. It's very clean and easy to access all the different processes within it. And on the screen here, I've just circled a few things that I want to touch upon, which help you optimize your machines and therefore reduce the amount of waste, which is the obviously the title of this webinar today. So if you look at the middle section, what you've got effectively is that in this rebar factory, the activities for the production have already been assigned to different machines, whether it's cutting, whether it's bending, whether it's cleaning, all that's been assigned by the system. You also can see which machines it's been assigned to. It's also telling you the production time for each machine to engage in that particular activity. It's even telling you the cost incurred in using that machine, because it takes into account the product and the machine and the energy and so on. And then finally, under properties, even allows you to subcontract directly from the system any activity which you do not wish to do yourself. It's already loaded up with all of your subcontractors. If you want to add new subcontractors, you can do that as well. And like I said, because it has its own procurement system, you even know how much that subcontractor will charge you because those rates are already loaded within the system. So this enables you to do things very smartly, to produce very smartly, cut down on mistakes, and therefore cut down on errors and waste. This next slide here is effectively a shot from the machine planning module. So here what you're looking at is on the left hand side a list of your machines that are available, laser machine, plane machine, even the makes, the welding machine, the cleaning machine. And what the green and orange effectively means, so it's all color coded, the green effectively means machines that still have spare capacity. So your production planner can actually allocate more work to these particular machines. The orange ones effectively mean that that machine is now out for the day. It's already been maxed out in terms of allocation. So the tool is very easily understood by the production operator. They can obviously optimize and try, if they want to, they can manually allocate and reallocate production activity, or you can let the inbuilt optimizer, which relies on an algorithm, to do it for you and suggest to the user how everything should be manufactured in any given day or any given week. And the beauty about this is it cuts down on the amount of time the user has to spend to try and manually figure out what machines to allocate to. And of course, when we manually do things, we are more likely to make mistakes, which lead to products being rejected, which therefore leads directly to waste. So using a very smart software like this enables you to actually optimize production and therefore eliminate waste as much as possible. But like I said, these are just a couple of slides I've taken from within the system. In reality, we do a lot of demos for our customers where we deep dive into the system, really take an in-depth look at the way the production planning, for example, works. Here, I just want to share with you a few percentages which we glean from our many years of work with our customers in terms of what, when someone invests in this sort of solution, what they should expect in terms of reduction in waste and associated increasing productivity. So people who might be reliant on manual processes, when they switch to a smart system like Advanced Workshop, they should expect a 50% increase in office productivity. And that clearly contributes greatly to efficiency, cost savings, and therefore profitability, which is clearly something every business needs to survive. In the factory itself, there is normally an expected 30% increase in productivity when you switch from manual processes to a more automated process using this kind of solution. And that is typical all around the world, because remember, we have clients all over the world. And then finally, on the waste percentage, you would expect to cut down on waste on an average 30% in your factory when you actually invest in something like an Advanced Workshop. And that, when you think about the price per ton of rebar and steel, which seems to be going up every time you look, if you can cut down on waste by that degree, I think your accountants will very, very quickly tell you how much money that actually means in practice. And we certainly have clients who have saved hundreds and thousands of euros just through waste alone by optimizing their processes using the software that I'm talking about. Now, finally, I want to just finish off on a peek into the future in terms of where are we going with waste reduction. And you know, is the news positive or negative? And for me, I think there are a lot of positive things happening. Yes, if you watch some of the news headlines and so on, you see that there is still a very big problem connected to the climate and connected to whether we as a global community are changing fast enough to avert global, if you like, climate catastrophe in the future. But let's just see some of the things that are changing. There are individual countries that are, if you like, ahead of the game compared to others. There are individual companies that are ahead of the game. So it's obviously a very mixed bag. But what you find is more and more clients at the design stage are asking for what the waste plan is, not just what the cost plan might be or the time plan, but they're also asking contractors, what is your waste plan? What is your plan for dealing with waste? And it is no good just, if you like, offering assurances. They actually want to see a well thought out, thorough, and signed up plan that a company can sign up to as something that's very, very serious and part of their DNA. And this is a very good trend, definitely. Also, when you look at digital software in the world of 2D, but also 3D BIM modeling, you find that the software with every iteration is getting smarter and smarter, and it's becoming so developed that it's enabling people to actually facilitate that waste process discussion at the design stage, as well as the carbon reducing processes. So, for example, right at the beginning, you are able to design building options, and you can have a look at the carbon reduction based on each design, and also you can look at the waste reduction based on each design. And these things weren't possible only a few years ago, but now they are. And you find on a lot of sites, and I visited an awful lot of sites, I've been in the world of construction for over 20 years, you find now that most sites that you go on, you find that they are mandatory recycling areas. So it is no longer good enough for people just to lose construction waste in holes, if you like, or in skips. There are actually mandated recycling areas where waste of a certain nature has to be deposited, and this then feeds into the data collection, so the construction companies can see, can get visibility on actually how much is being wasted of which product. And this obviously feeds into knowing what you're wasting. After all, if you don't know what you're wasting, you can't fix the problem. And linked to this are KPIs. So more and more companies are KPIing their people involved in the construction process. And the KPIs, if you like, are not just a number or an aspiration. They are becoming real serious items with consequences. People are, if you like, getting paid on those KPIs. Sometimes incentivizing people is the best way to change behavior. So clearly this is coming in. Governments around the world are taking the lead. So already a lot of governments demand to see the carbon reduction footprint of any construction design that's presented to them. In fact, a lot are actually telling the contractors that this is the carbon target that we have with this project. Can you meet it? Can you demonstrate that you can meet it? And again, linking incentives with that. And then artificial intelligence. I think it's fair to say everywhere in construction now, when you talk about the future, artificial intelligence is often mentioned. I'm thinking of the new smart recycling bins that you see on a lot of sites, which are equipped with cameras, sensors, and machine learning even, to automatically sort waste products for recycling, where you see a lot of robots are coming into use. And you also see material recovery facilities, which again are using advanced robotics to cycle through waste. The importance of this is it means that waste can then be recycled, and therefore that contributes to the recycling targets. Because clearly what construction needs to do and has to do is recycle wherever possible. To cut down on that very alarming raw material statistic that I shared with you right at the beginning, we've got to cut down effectively on the amount of raw material that we are taking from the earth, because it's a finite supply. And then on the right-hand side, I don't know if you've heard of the 5 R's in waste reduction. Refuse, reduce, reuse, repurpose, recycle. It's a really sort of good way of remembering it. Refuse effectively is saying to companies, refuse products where you're not sure whether they're actually sustainable, okay, wherever you can. Reduce the use of first-use products, encourage recycling, reuse, repurpose. So if you have things as simple as cardboard boxes, rather than just get rid of them, see if you can reuse those, repurpose them, maybe to store other materials or files or paper, whatever it is, and obviously recycle wherever possible. So this is a very good sort of, for me, a very good way of remembering how we can cut down on waste. So that brings me to the end of the conversation today. And I will certainly take any questions if any of you have any. But I'd also like to thank you all for spending a few of your precious minutes listening to me talk about waste reduction in the world of construction. So, any questions?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Ismail. And guys, if you have any questions, at the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A. You can click that and plug in your questions. So we'll take a couple of seconds to do that. But I do have a question here for you, Ismail. How do you deal with contractors who are only interested in profit and the carbon reduction situation is of little or no interest?
That's a very good question, Misty. Thank you for that. I think, well, the first thing I want to say is I would say it's precisely that sort of mindset that we've had for so many years that, if you like, has led us to this issue of unsustainable waste throughout the world, really. And that's really what we've got to change. Yes, I also understand that companies have got to make money and have got to make profit to survive, but to sort of make that the sole purpose, I think that's where the problem lies. And I'd split down the answer really lies in two areas. When you think about construction projects, you're either dealing with government-funded, government-led projects, or you're dealing with privately funded projects. And I'm from the UK, and certainly here what you find is the government is more and more clamping down quite hard on, if you like, irresponsible waste practices. So, when I look at the UK here, we've got the Environment Agency, we've got the Health and Safety Executive, we've got the recent Environmental Protection Act, we've got another act that was just passed in 2021, in fact. And so, the government here is very, very much focused on limiting and reducing waste as much as possible. I think in government-funded projects, it's easier because you've got the government enforcing, if you like, carbon reduction targets and waste targets, which, if you want to win the work, you've got to demonstrate that you can actually conform. Sometimes it's more of a challenge when you're dealing with private projects because it's not necessarily the government client. It could be a private client who may or may not be as interested in sustainability. So what's the answer there? Because in the UK, for example, 60% of all construction work is privately funded. So it's obviously a very, very big piece of the cake. I think in that circumstance, what you've got to do really is you've got to demonstrate that it's in their interest, and you've almost got to tie to the profitability and lowering of the cost the fact that if they actually do follow your waste reduction plan, it's actually going to lead to lower costs, which therefore means that the project is actually going to be more efficiently delivered for them. So you've got to tie the whole waste and sustainability process and argument along with the commercial processes that they're so interested in. So cost reduction, waste reduction, and ultimately profitability, which of course clients are interested in. So that's what I would say really in answer to that question, Misty.
I think that's a great answer. And if we've got two questions, the first one, are you aware of any government incentives or any things like that that would help to drive a company to invest in something like this?
Well, certainly over in the UK, there are many government incentives and grants that are available, especially to startup companies, because the government has dual objectives. They want to encourage newer companies to take root, but also they want them to take root in the right way. So certainly if you were to go onto the gov.uk website and actually type in grants for waste reduction, you will find that the government, certainly over here in the UK, is very, very sympathetic. They'll even give you free equipment and free consultation advice to direct you towards the right methods of recycling. And there are also many tax breaks available to drive such behavior.
Yeah, and I think that's very true in the US as well. And I think as this issue with sustainability becomes even more important and widespread, we will continue to see those type of incentives roll out. I mean, honestly, every single year. And if somebody would like to reach out in order to maybe get a demo for this and some of the products that you talked about, how could they do that?
Sorry, Mr. I missed that. Did you repeat that, please?
Sure thing. If somebody wants to reach out to get a demo of some of these products that you talked about, how can they do that?
Okay. The best and easiest way is use my email address. Misty, has that been advertised? I know it's not on screen, but
I can plug it in.
Yes, I can certainly respond to any questions or any inquiries at all. If we want to do that. So sorry, Mr. Do you want me to say it right now, or are you going to put it on?
Yes, I'm gonna plug it in the chat here actually. So let's see. Give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna plug it on in there. All right. And what is that email?
Email ismail.makda@graitec.com.
All right, I'm sending that out to everyone in the Q&A section there, so you guys can get that as well.
Yeah, and whilst you were doing that, I was just looking up something about the US, and there is tons of funding available from the US government, the Department of Agriculture, the solid waste management grants, loans. So it seems to be a similar picture to over here in the UK, where the government is actually quite serious in helping companies with financial help to cut down on this reduction.